Imagine that almost all the knowledge of the ancient world was stored in one magnificent place. Then, in a single night, flames consumed the building, and centuries of human discovery disappeared forever. This is the famous story of the Library of Alexandria. But the truth behind its rise and destruction is far more complicated, and perhaps even more fascinating. More than 2,000 years ago, Alexandria stood on the Mediterranean coast of Egypt. Its busy harbor connected Africa, Asia, and Europe, while merchants and travelers brought ideas from across the known world. The city had been founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC. After his death, Egypt came under the control of the Ptolemaic dynasty, whose rulers wanted Alexandria to become more than a wealthy port. They wanted it to become the intellectual capital of the ancient world. During the reigns of Ptolemy I and his son Ptolemy II, a remarkable institution began to take shape. It became known as the Mauseon, a place dedicated to the Muses, the Greek goddesses of art and knowledge. The modern word, museum, comes from this ancient name. But the Mauseon was not a museum filled with objects behind glass. It was closer to a research university, an academy, and a scientific institute combined. Scholars lived there, studied together, and exchanged ideas beneath marble colonnades and shaded gardens. At the center of this institution stood the legendary Library of Alexandria. Its ambition was extraordinary: to collect as much of the world's written knowledge as possible. The library contained papyrus scrolls rather than modern books. These scrolls included poetry, philosophy, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, history, and observations about distant lands. No one knows exactly how large the collection became. Ancient and modern estimates vary enormously, ranging from tens of thousands to several 100,000 scrolls. The Ptolemaic rulers were determined to expand it. Royal agents traveled through the Mediterranean world, searching markets and private collections for valuable manuscripts. According to an ancient account, ships entering Alexandria's harbor were inspected for scrolls. The texts were taken to the library and copied by professional scribes. The owners sometimes received the copies, while the originals remained in Alexandria. Whether this happened as often as later writers claimed is uncertain, but it reflects the extraordinary hunger for knowledge that surrounded the library. Organizing such a collection was itself a major challenge. Scrolls had no covers, printed titles, or searchable databases. The poet and scholar Callimachus created a vast catalog known as the Pinax. It classified authors and their works and is often regarded as an important early step toward modern library catalogs. But Alexandria did more than preserve existing knowledge. It became a place where new discoveries were made. Eratosthenes, one of the library's most famous scholars, estimated the circumference of the Earth using shadows and geometry. His result came remarkably close to the planet's true size. Other Alexandrian scholars studied the stars, examined the human body, refined mathematical ideas, and compared different versions of ancient literature. They helped preserve works such as the poems attributed to Homer by carefully editing and copying them. For a time, Alexandria became one of the greatest meeting places of ideas in history. Egyptian traditions existed beside Greek philosophy, while knowledge from other parts of the Mediterranean and the Near East entered the city through trade and scholarship. Yet the library was never completely independent. Its survival depended on the support of kings, politicians, and wealthy patrons. When political power changed, the position of the scholars changed with it. In the 2nd century BC, conflict within the Ptolemaic royal family weakened Alexandria's intellectual community. Around 145 BC, Ptolemy VIII expelled many scholars from the city. Some traveled to other centers of learning, taking their experience, and possibly books or copies of texts, with them. The decline of the library may therefore have begun long before the famous flames. Funding weakened, scholars departed, and the institution gradually lost the royal protection that had once made it powerful. Then came Julius Caesar. In 48 BC, Caesar became involved in a civil war between Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy XIII. Trapped near Alexandria's harbor, Caesar ordered ships to be set on fire to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The flames spread through parts of the harbor district. Ancient writers later claimed that thousands of scrolls were destroyed. But their accounts do not agree. Some describe the destruction of the Great Library, while others mentioned only warehouses containing books near the docks. This uncertainty is crucial. There is evidence that the Mausoleum, or at least part of Alexandria's scholarly institution, continued to exist after Caesar's fire. The geographer Strabo described the Mausoleum decades later. This suggests that Caesar's flames did not erase the entire institution in a single catastrophic moment. The library faced further dangers during the centuries of Roman rule. Financial support became inconsistent, while wars, political unrest, and damage to Alexandria slowly transformed the city. In the 3rd century AD, fighting devastated the royal quarter where the original library had probably stood. By then, however, its greatest age had already passed. Another collection was connected to the Serapeum, a large temple dedicated to the god Serapis. It is sometimes described as a daughter library of the original institution. The Serapeum was destroyed in 391 AD during religious conflict between Christians and followers of the traditional gods. Whether a significant number of scrolls still remained inside it is unknown. A later story claimed that Arab conquerors burned the library after capturing Alexandria in the 7th century. However, this account appeared many centuries after the supposed event and is rejected by most modern historians. The uncomfortable truth is that we cannot identify one person, one army, or one fire that destroyed the Library of Alexandria. Its disappearance was probably a long process. Fire, warfare, political decisions, religious conflict, declining investment, and the natural decay of papyrus may all have played a role. So what knowledge was actually lost? We do not know. There is no surviving inventory showing exactly which works vanished in Alexandria and which existed as copies elsewhere. Many ancient authors are now known only through fragments or references made by later writers. Entire works of history, drama, philosophy, and science disappeared during antiquity. But it would be misleading to blame every lost ancient text on Alexandria. Other libraries existed, and many important works had already been copied and carried to places such as Athens, Rome, and Pergamon. The idea that one fire pushed human civilization backward by 1,000 years is therefore probably a myth. Knowledge in the ancient world was spread across many cities, schools, temples, and private collections. Yet something irreplaceable was still lost. Alexandria represented the dream of gathering human knowledge in one place. It brought scholars together, supported research, and treated the preservation of ideas as a project worthy of kings. Its greatest achievement may not have been the number of scrolls on its shelves. It was the intellectual community created around them. In 2002, the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina opened near the site of the ancient city. Its circular architecture faces the Mediterranean, symbolically reviving Alexandria's ancient connection to learning. The original library has vanished, and its exact location remains uncertain. But its idea has survived in every great library, research institution, and digital archive that attempts to preserve knowledge for future generations. Perhaps the real lesson of Alexandria is not that knowledge can disappear in one dramatic fire. It is that knowledge slowly fades when societies stop protecting, copying, sharing, and supporting it. What discoveries might have survived if Alexandria's scholars had received centuries of continued support? And how much of our own knowledge would survive if the institutions preserving it disappeared? Subscribe to WunderAtlas Global for more journeys through history, science, and the mysteries that continue to shape our world. Until the next wonder.